So Spotify has a huge problem right now with bot streams. They are taking down music from indie artists who they are accusing of having gotten bot streams purposefully, basically. And they're taking down tracks. Distributors are getting in on the action and removing whole artist catalogs from Spotify. And it's just kind of a huge mess right now. This comes on the heels of Spotify's royalty change announcement last year. And honestly, I think it's a result of a fairly poorly thought out policy on Spotify's part. So in this video, I'm going to break down what's happening, what you can do about it, and just kind of rant for a little bit, to be honest. So let's do it. All right, first of all, sorry about the sunlight thing. If I move, you can see the sunlight on my shirt. That is because it's a very nice day outside and the window is right there, and it's kind of nice for me, but it looks weird on video. Anyway, so I'm by no means an expert on any of this stuff. I've been tracking Spotify, obviously, for a while. A lot of my content that I do on this channel is on Spotify, how to grow on Spotify, but I'm not like an expert on their ecosystem and botted streams and how everything fits together. I read the same stuff you do probably. But I want to try and explain what is happening just in case you aren't aware of it. So there's pretty much always been a bot problem on Spotify for as long as I can remember. And this is kind of because of the nature of the platform itself. You can create playlists, public playlists, and then have other people follow and like those playlists. You can create, it's pretty easy to create user accounts. So it's pretty easy to game the system because of the openness of the system. Pretty much every social media platform has some kind of trouble with botted accounts or botted profiles and botted traffic. Like, just Google bots attached to any platform and it's definitely a thing. So Spotify is not alone in this. But where it's weirdly problematic for Spotify is that there are monetary incentives tied to having content on the platform in a way that feels different from other platforms. So for instance, if you're posting on Facebook, if you're posting on Twitter, if you're posting on Instagram, yeah, you can build a following on those platforms and you can monetize that following in different ways. But with Spotify, literally the following is the money, the streams themselves are money. And so there's this weird incentive to have botted streams because it then leads to literal payouts of money. There's some similarities to YouTube there. I'm not going to get into all of that, but the point is that music is a product, and because Spotify is this weird amalgamation of a social media platform and a just streaming service, there are incentives for a lot of bot activity. That's too long, don't read. That's the moral of the story, is that there have always been a ton of bots on Spotify because there are huge incentives for there to be bots on Spotify because there's money tied into it. So given that, for a long time, Spotify was just kind of policing itself. They were trying to do their best to detect bot accounts. They would sometimes remove songs. There have been notable purges throughout the platform's history of just a ton of bot accounts and some artist profiles and songs. And that was just kind of an ongoing thing that they were always doing, is trying to clean up the platform. But then at the end of last year, Spotify announced these royalty system changes. I will link to their announcement from, I think it was November, where they go through all these things that they are changing going forward. And one of the things that got buried a little bit was that they are going to be fining distributors on a per track basis for botted streams. So essentially this means that every time a artist gets botted streams, the distributor is going to get a fee. The label is going to get a fee. And so Spotify basically pushed all of the responsibility for botted streams. They broke it up track by track and they pushed it all onto distributors. At the time of the announcement, I feel like most people just kind of glossed over that. We were all talking about, the payment threshold, you have to have 1,000 streams in a year to get paid. But we didn't talk a ton about the bot fees for distributors. But I think we probably should have, because in the last few months, things have gotten pretty bad on the platform. So here's what's happening. There are companies, and I did a video on one of them called Waiver.ai, but there are many others, that essentially just have a ton of bot profiles and bot traffic. They basically built an ecosystem of bots, and they will scrape different sources for indie artists who don't have a ton of streams and enter them into their botted ecosystem. Basically put them on a playlist where there are a ton of bots that will get them streams. Those artists will then experience a spike in streams for a day, a couple of days. It's an absurd spike in streams relative to what their previous levels were at. And then most of the times they'll be taken off of the playlist. So supposedly the reason a company like Waiver AI would do this is that it works as advertising for their service. Basically, if an indie artist gets a ton of streams and they can find out that it's coming from a playlist built by a company called Waiver.ai, maybe they reach out to that company and they end up paying for more botted streams, not knowing any better. maybe that happens. Practically speaking, though, I don't know one case where that's happened, where an indie artist has seen clearly a huge spike in streams and has thought, I want more of that spike. Almost every time what happens is they get added and they're like, oh crap, this is botted streams. And then they ask to get taken off. They maybe reach out to Spotify, reach out to their distributor, and they're just doing everything they can to not get on that Waiver.ai botted playlist. But then, because of Spotify's new policy, because Spotify has pushed the penalty for botted streams to the distributors, most often what happens is that a distributor, usually DistroKid or TuneCore, I actually haven't heard this happen with CD Baby, but if you've had that happen and you use CD Baby, let me know in the comments. The distributor will remove the song, and distributors have also been increasingly threatening artists that they will remove entire catalogs, and I do know some artists who have had entire catalogs removed because of streams that the artist did not do anything to acquire. The artist just existed on Spotify, was attacked by this botted service, and now has had their catalog removed, which sucks. Now, I've heard a few people posit that this is a conspiracy on the part of major labels, that major labels are creating these scam companies, scraping indie artists and hitting them with bot streams so that they can have a bigger chunk of the royalty pool. And the sad thing is that you can't totally rule that out. I am by no means a conspiracy theorist, so I don't think that that is the likely explanation. I think it's probably just lame incentives built into a broken system, and bad actors are taking advantage of it. Don't think it's anything more than that. But the thing is, like, it's actually kind of a feasible explanation. So this video is basically just a rant about this. It's not super actionable information, but I just wanted to make some more noise about it because when I talked about this in my newsletter, which you should sign up for my newsletter if you have not already, when I sent out a newsletter about this topic, I got like dozens of replies from artists saying they've been hit with this. On my own client roster, I've seen this happen again and again. I'll throw some screenshots on the screen here of what it looks like when you get hit with the botted streams. And it just feels so unfair. Like, I know artists that literally have never paid for promotion who have been hit with this. I know artists on different distributors. It's not just DistroKid, although there does seem to be a lot of DistroKid artists that are hit with this. But they're not, the point is they're not doing anything to get hit with the botted streams. They're just being hit with botted streams, and then they're having their music removed from Spotify, and it just doesn't feel fair. So I just wanted to, I guess, rant about it and hopefully just bring some more attention to it. If you get hit with one of these scams, what you can do is reach out to Spotify. You can flag the playlist. You can go through, I'll put a link to like customer support for Spotify. Most of the time, they're not that helpful. Often you'll get caught in a game of hot potato between Spotify and your distributor, and neither one really wants to help you out very much. But you can go through both of those places, and I would recommend that you do if you notice you've been hit with botted streams, because the sooner you bring attention to the issue, the more likely it is that people will have grace for you. But yeah, it just kind of sucks. And this is a time-sensitive thing, but I also know that Ari Herstand is writing a piece for Variety.com, and he is asking people to share their experiences if this has happened to you. So I'll put a link to his newsletter where if this has happened to you, you can let him know, and hopefully that can be a part of a story that will be written up on a major news site. All right, last thought before I wrap up this rant. I don't actually think that Spotify is evil, so I don't mean this to just be like, oh, Spotify's the worst. I think it's very easy to just complain about systems, just honestly to complain about anything. I think that's kind of the easiest thing to relate to people on. But I don't think that Spotify is just all bad. Their Loud and Clear report that they just put out has a lot of impressive data about the royalty payments, and yet you can argue the nuances of it, whatever. If you want to take a pessimistic view, that's fine. Personally, I think Spotify has actually done a lot of good. I think it's easier than ever to get your music into the ears of new fans, and that a lot of that is because of Spotify. And I think the platform is just pretty great as a user, and I think that they've restored some value to music. Again, all these are open for debate. My point is that I'm not just trying to make a hit piece on Spotify. But I do think that this bot thing is a major issue, and that by pushing the responsibility onto distributors, they have really just screwed up the ecosystem, and it really needs to be fixed. So I'm hopeful that they can fix it, and I'm hopeful that if you have been hit by this, or if you haven't, that you still feel encouraged to be marketing your music. At the end of the day, we just want to make good music and have people hear it. So wishing you the best as you go about doing that, and as always, good luck out there.